My grandfather hired a man with a log truck to take us down one Sunday afternoon and spend some time with him. He had guard duty that afternoon, but he paid another soldier to take his place so he could spend some time with us. And he had an extra cap that he thought I should have on for this picture. I remember very distinctly the last night that he was home on furlough before shipping out to go overseas. I remember that. At 3 years old, you don't think children have that much of a memory, but I distinctly remember his leaving that night to go to Little Rock to catch a bus or train or however that they left. Well, in high school, I always knew that I wanted to join the military. And I thought that I wanted to join the Air Force because, like I've told other people, in the Air Force you don't have to sleep on the ground, very seldom have to eat cold food, so that's what I want. So I joined the Air Force in 1960 and went to basic training in Lackland Air Force Base. After basic, I was assigned to Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. Almost 2 years there, and I had a childhood injury from just when I was like 1, 2 years old. So after a year and a half at Abilene, my hand got to bothering me, so I went to sick call. They referred me back to Lackland, where one of the great hospitals that the Air Force has is there, where I spent 2 months in the hospital at Lackland to get my hand repaired. Thank goodness they fixed it. Then it was just a short time after that I got orders to go to Madrid, Spain, Torrejon Air Base in Madrid, Spain. So I arrived over there in May of 1962. I was lost. I was lost physically. I was lost emotionally. That's the furthest I'd ever been away from home, and so I was very. It was different, very different. But I fell in pretty good, and I was assigned to. I went in as an air policeman in the Air Force, and so when I got to Torrejon, they asked me where my qualification records were for .45 pistol and carbine. I said, I just had major surgery on this hand. I don't have any. I'm not qualified to fire a weapon. So they made me a turnkey in the base stockade, and that's where I worked for perhaps 6 or 8 months. And then they said, if you can't qualify with a weapon, we got to get you out of the squadron because you have to be qualified with a weapon to even work in the stockade. I said, whatever, whatever. I wanted to be a medic. That was my desire from the get-go, to be a medic. And they said that is just too expensive and too intensive unless you re-enlist or extend. We can't even consider it. I said, well, I can't consider you telling me that I might be able to get in the medics without some sort of assurance on your part. So you put me in the medics and I'll consider. But that didn't work. You don't tell them what you want them to do. So they put me in a squadron with a major and a master sergeant. We were the squadron. We were called the BDC Big R. What it was if somebody on the base had a suggestion that they thought would save the government money, they would send that to us. We would redo the whole application, send it to the squadron in which it represented, which was affected. They would evaluate it, send it back to us. So that's what I did 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for the rest of my enlistment in Spain. was a clerk typist, and I got to travel around. That was went to Seville, went to different castles and different parts of Spain, and I enjoyed it. Well, I was introduced to a Southern Baptist church that was a missionary Southern Baptist church. It was in town, it was in Madrid, and it was run by an American pastor that was sent over by the Southern Baptist Convention. And I got involved in the youth group, and that's where we did most of our outings. We would go in groups, and I remember I was at a Wednesday night service at that church when news came that President Kennedy had been assassinated. You always remember where you were at any occasion like that. I was at church.
In Spain.
In Spain. And at that time, the Americans had just gotten permission from the Spanish government to put a sign up out in front, the name of the church. That's one thing that wasn't mentioned that I remember at all, any benefits that one has. And certainly no one ever said, keep up with that DD-214, because that will come in handy time after time. I stress that now. I put ads in the paper. Please know where your DD-214 is, or where somebody knows where it is. But no, I didn't know that I was eligible for VA health care. I had no idea. I had no idea until like 2003. When I retired from the Teamsters Union, I started volunteering to drive the DAV Transportation Network van from North Georgia into the Atlanta hospital. First I'd heard about VA healthcare. And I had my father's flag that was given to my grandparents when my father was brought back to this country, because my mother had remarried, before his body was brought back. So it wasn't given to her or me, it was given to my grandparents. So upon my grandmother's death, she requested that flag be given to me. So I had it at home in Blue Ridge, Georgia. So I thought, and she made the children take it, unfold it, and fold it back up periodically to keep it from just laying all folded up for that long of a period. So when I got it, it was like a square. It wasn't folded like a flag. So I said, maybe somebody there will know how to fold this flag correctly. Even after being in the military, I didn't know how to fold a flag correctly at that time. So I went to the commander of the North Georgia Honor Guard, and I said, could you get somebody to fold this correctly for me? And I told him the story. He said, yeah, we can use that in our program. So when it came time for this part of the program, he had two men come up and fold it and present it to me. I said, this is what I want. So I joined the North Georgia Honor Guard. I became associate chaplain, and I was at every funeral detail that I could possibly make. So when my wife convinced me that we should come back to Mountain View, Arkansas, where my mother lived, she was a widow again, and getting up in years, finally she convinced me that we should come back to Arkansas. So we sold our place in Blue Ridge, Georgia, bought some property here in Stone County, and moved back. I thought, hey, I've got experience in honor guard activity. So I started visiting the different veterans organizations, VFW, American Legion, AMVETS, and talking it up. Got a little bit of interest going here and there. And then there was a World War II veteran that passed away in the area, and the widow wanted World War II veterans to fold the flag. So I sort of took that and ran with it, and I delivered the chaplain's part, and then the World War II veterans folded the flag, presented it to her. And then after that, it just started gathering momentum like a snowball. 5 years ago, I visited with the former veteran service officer for the county, and he said, I'm getting ready to retire here in a month or so. Why don't you take this job over? I got to thinking about it. I thought, that would be neat. So I went to the judge and just asked him to be considered for this position. So when the other fellow retired, Stacy Avey, who's the Stone County judge, says, why don't you just come on in? So I became the Stone County service officer just from the street, blind. I knew nothing about nothing. With training from the Arkansas Department of Veterans Affairs in Little Rock, and fortunately, right after that, they broke the state into districts, and we got a district veteran service officer, and she is stationed at Mountain Home. She's over 9 counties. That has been a lifesaver. I get a lot of widows of 100% service-connected, permanently and totally disabled veterans who lose their letter of summary of benefits. And then when they go to the tax collector to get their taxes relieved, the tax collector says, may I see your letter of summary of benefits? Well, I don't know where it is. So she say, go see William. So here they come in, and I help them through error and trial and error. I've got it down to where I can make a telephone call and get it faxed right back to the judge's office and walk over and pick it up for him. I strongly urge young men and young women all to at least go into the military for one enlistment. And I think the draft should be brought back, because we didn't know what we wanted to do when we got out of the high school, and it teaches leadership. It builds your morale, and you get to travel places that you wouldn't maybe otherwise get to go. I wouldn't take $1 million for the time that I spent, and I'd go back today and do it all over again.